5:15, I shall call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Howdy, everyone. We should have roll call at this time, Carolina.
Councilmember Pearl,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Dawson, Mayor Wohlers.
Yes. Well, once again, we shall start with Mayor Waller's quote for the day. This one comes from Mr. George Bernard Shaw. For those of you who don't know him, he was playwright, activist, had a lot of influence in Western culture, that kind of thing. So his quote goes like this. It speaks to us about change. Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So, we have some things we'll probably be talking about tonight later in the meeting that deal with change. So I thought it was appropriate. At this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda and entertain any additions or corrections.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda as is. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, at this time of our meeting, we have the citizens' comments portion of our meeting, and of course, anybody in the audience can address the council. But tonight we have Jake, I believe, is going to be joining us. He has a request that he'd like to speak to the city council about. So I guess we could.
Yep, I'm here.
You're here, Jake? All right. Well, first of all, we could probably just start out with some introductions. I think you probably know Becca by now. I am Mayor Kevin Wohlers, and if you want to introduce yourselves, council members.
Councilman Jeff Miller.
Councilmember Brian Salvi.
Councilmember Zach Krails.
All right. Well, Jake, I appreciate you joining us. We're all ears. The floor is yours. Tell us what's on your mind.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Jake Weber, Vice President of Inkstead Media. We own a number of radio stations throughout Minnesota and also in Alaska and Oregon, but we're a third-generation family-owned Minnesota radio company. We've got stations in Montevideo, Hutchinson, Glencoe, New Ulm, New Prague, Wilmer, CPI, obviously Morris, Deep River Falls. We've been broadcasting from Morris since 1999 when we purchased the radio stations there, KKOK and KMRS. And over the years, we've tried to update and improve the building and the equipment. And in fact, we spent over $150,000 this last year alone just on new transmitters and exciters and a bunch of engineering. But unfortunately, we've hit a wall where this building just cannot maintain what we need. We can try to remodel it, but the extensive amount of demo work that's going to go into it, it's just way too expensive to do. And then also try to broadcast while you're demoing studios and tearing it apart and then try to continue working from there. Radio's a little tricky. You can't just up and get a temporary building somewhere. We've got a lot of equipment, satellites and things that we have to work with. We found a building in town that we think will work well for what we need. Then we also found a buyer, a person that lives out in that community that would love to have that land and keep it from ever changing in the future. And it was a great situation. But then we found out from the buyer that the land is under a municipal limited use provision, which we didn't know at the time. Tor's father, Tor Inkstead, who I run the company for, had passed away a couple years ago. And apparently in 1999 when we purchased it, either he knew about it or didn't know about it, we don't know, but we didn't know about it until we were going to sell the land, and then found out that this limited use, it keeps a new buyer from doing anything new. We're grandfathered in, but we're still a little bit restricted as well, too, as far as what we can do with the current from what we originally were thinking that we could do with it. We're being taxed on a county valuation of $256,000 for 2024, and that's up from $233,000 in '23, and that's up $40,000 in the last 5 years. Yet the property, according to these real estate people, it's worth maybe $25,000, and it's because of limited use, where we're pretty much handicapped to what we can do with it. Because of land use restrictions and land's value, you know, as far as a fair market value right now, we're suggesting that the city of Morris purchase land from us, along with a long-term agreement to keep our transmitter and tower there for the amount that it's valued according to the county. This move allows us to then move into a new building, do all the equipment and the updates that we have to do with the new building, not to mention on the engineering, which is going to be well over $300,000. We don't have to do that. We can stay in the current building, but eventually we're going to have to move. And right now, our next best possibility is to move over to Montevideo, where we've got a building. We have radio stations there. We built a brand new building 15 years ago. We built it pretty big, so we can put new studios there. Unfortunately, we wouldn't then be able to accommodate daily things in Morris. We could still cover area sports and things like that, but it's not a good situation for unions. You know, the town's left without a local radio station in town, but for us, it's the best thing we can do to financially continue to broadcast and serve the communities, because it's not just Morris. It's obviously, you know, our KQOK and KMRS have a pretty good sized listening audience, and it stretches out. So again, today we come to you just saying, here's where we're at. The land is crippled as far as trying to sell it to somebody else because of the land use provision that's on there. We need to move into a new building. This building isn't, well, I mean, we keep trying to update it, but there's certain things that have to be like completely torn down to the studs and redone. I mean, we'd have to go through and do a new plumbing and heating system and all kinds of things, and it's just, I mean, it's incredibly, you know, for a radio station to try to do that while broadcasting, it's impossible. So that's where we're at today, and that's why I wanted to come before the council and see if you guys would be interested in doing that.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, I guess I'd just like to speak to, you know, the benefit that, you know, we of course appreciate every business and that we have and the contributions that KKOK has provided and the services that you've provided to the community over the years. You know, it's, we really have a value on that, but you know, when it comes to land acquisition, things like that, and I'm sure Becca has shared this with you, we do have a process that we have to follow. And I guess at this point, I'd like to just send it back over to the council and maybe get some input from the rest of the members of the council. You know, I think we're all open to look at, you know, any possibilities, because the last thing we want from not only you, but any of our businesses in town is to leave. So, you know, that being said, I'll just throw it back over to the city council and let them weigh in.
It is zoned municipal
Conservatively.
conservancy.
Yes.
Has it gone before our planning commission?
No.
I mean, that's what I think the first step that we need to do. We have a planning commission to deal with issues of this type. I think that's what we have a planning commission for, to deal with that, and to, if it should be rezoned or can be rezoned, I think that's where it needs to start, is my personal view on that.
Yeah, we would love it to be rezoned too. I mean, if we could rezone it, then we can sell it for what it's worth, as opposed to, again, we're paying all these taxes on something that, according to real estate people, it's not worth anywhere near that. And so that's, it's not a good situation for where we're in right now. As a radio company, we need to have nice studios. And part of the problem, we can't attract good on-air talent because they come into town, they're there for a week or two, and then they realize this is a terrible place to work. It's just, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's, you know, you need so much work. But again, you know, we'd like to put forth the effort and buy a building and do all that stuff, but there's no value in this land right now. So if we can get rid of the limited use, right? Yeah, then we're back back to where we wanted to be originally a month and a half ago.
Anytime you're involved with a municipality or with city government, nothing moves real fast. I know it takes a process, the meetings, to get on the agendas and to do something. And I know it sometimes gets frustrating, the process and the time it takes, but that's my recommendation would be for it to make a request and put it before the planning commission and let them gather the facts and info and come back to us with what they've figured out with that.
What exactly is the municipal land use?
Municipal Conservancy.
Yeah.
So it can be used, a lot of it needs a conditional use permit for, so,
While she's looking that up, Jake, just for my edification, are your sales at just a plot of land, or is it the building as well?
Well, it's the building that they would have to tear it down.
Okay.
I mean, we've had several people, and again, our original thought is we could remodel it.
Yep.
But everybody we talk to, every contractor, every engineer, it's just impossible. I mean, the building itself would have to do so much renovation, and it takes so much time. To move away with the studios temporarily, and that's gonna cost easily $50,000 to do that.
Sure.
okay,
Again,
so,
it's not as easy as just moving into a different building and putting your name on front of it. We've got connections that have to be made back to the tower site.
Yep.
We've got satellite receivers, all that stuff has to move along with the studios.
so.
And how much
permit-
land are we talking about?
How many acres is it, Jake, total?
Oh, it's 8, I believe, 8 acres.
Okay. Yeah, we have several different districts, housing districts established in Morris. And we've had them for years. We have a resident district, as you know, business districts, industrial districts, and then we have special districts, and that encompasses municipal conservatory and planned unit developments, which we do have 2 of. So Becca can speak to what allowable uses are at a municipal conservancy district. The whole purpose of the municipal conservancy is obviously wildlife kind of related, and that was,
Right, and well, like it says areas may be zoned, MC may include but not limited to lakeshore areas, floodplain, which that parcel's in the floodplain, water, groundwater sources, wetlands, so I'm guessing that's why that parcel was put into here. So permitted uses are general agricultural, pasture, and cropland use, including agriculture buildings, but not including agriculture and commercial feedlots. Public parks and public campgrounds, tree farms, nature preserves, wildlife management areas, bow hunting, and firearm hunting outside of the city limits. Permitted uses for accessory is public water access, bike and hike trails, public utilities, solar energy systems. So conditional uses, they require a conditional use permit. Single family residence use not exceeding 1 dwelling unit per 5 acre. Public education facilities, retail sale of agricultural products to the general public, cemeteries, home occupations, parking areas, private campgrounds, public or private recreational facilities, billboards and signs, agricultural uses that require center pivot irrigation systems. And then it has some extras on that one. Prohibited uses, commercial uses, industrial uses, single family resident uses with a density exceeding 1 unit per 5 acre, duplexes or multifamily residence, communication towers, livestock waste lagoon, junkyard salvage depot, solar farm, community solar gardens.
you
So
know,
there-
and thank you, Becca, for sharing that with me. Typically, Jake, just so you understand, kind of where we're at as, historically in our city, we have a comprehensive plan that we follow, and the planning commission has established, and you're essentially requesting more of a spot zoning type of a situation for us to take a look and spot zone and change. Personally, I'm not a real fan of spot zoning, because what we end up doing is zoning away from our comprehensive development plans, okay? So, not saying that we won't consider it, but traditionally, that's kind of the way we try to stay and follow our comprehensive plan as much as possible. The conditional use permit, one of the uses there is of course a residential application, and if you're not aware of the fact, in Morris, we are in a dire state where we really need housing. Yeah, and if I'm not sure what the intended use is for the potential buyer that you have, but obviously we could use some homes. And obviously then, if that is what could be a potential use, or if they would consider that as a use, then it would just require a conditional use permit granted by the planning commission. So again, I'm not sure what, and you don't need to disclose what the intended use is for your prospective buyer. I get all that. It's probably confidential, and it should stay that way. But I just wanted you to understand that, and I'll let the council weigh in on that as well. But we historically have not zoned away from our comprehensive plan. But
Sure.
okay.
Yeah,
What-
and I
what-
understand that, and the reason why we even brought this up was several weeks ago, we met with our FCC attorney in DC, also our chief engineer who's in Alaska right now, the owner of the company, and we went over a couple of different possibilities. And obviously, again, the easiest, fastest way for us to do this is just to move into Montevideo, to our studios there, and broadcast from there, where we already have a team on their staff, all the equipment. That would be the easiest way for us to do it. It would be the less expensive too. It probably costs us $20 grand, and that's it. But we don't want to do that. And obviously, Deb's been there for many, many years. She's been there even back when Hotel Power Company used to own it. And she is such a part of the community, Crystal as well. These radio stations have been there forever. Being 45 minutes away is not a terrible deal. And I worked in Fargo for many years for Jim Inkstead on the air and ran stations there. We cater to cities that are 45, 50 minutes away. We obviously Hillsborough, North Dakota, Wapaton, Breckenridge, Valley City, and it's never been an issue. When you get to the smaller towns, they need that more attention, and obviously with sporting and community events and things like that. So as a company, we've never thought about condensing operations. We've never thought about, let's just move to Wilmer. Let's just go ahead and do it from our Hutchinson studios or New Ulm or New Prague or anywhere. We've always wanted to be local. But when it came to this situation recently where there's a limited land use, the FCC attorney in DC said, well, if the city's got a plan and that's what they want to keep the land from being used for anything, then just ask them if they want to buy it. And that way we resolve two issues. We keep the station in the market. They have their long-term plans, what they want to do with the land. They can do whatever they want with it. Everybody, gets what they're looking for. At least we do, I guess. It depends on if you look at that as a good deal or not. I think most small towns, once they lose the radio station, and if they don't have a newspaper that's Monday through Friday and maybe a Sunday edition, you lose a lot of that local news. And again, we put forth lots of effort to continue to bring in new people, and but we keep running into the same problem. And that's why we decided we have to finally move into a different building. We've got to create a much nicer presence in the community where people can come into a nice big studio and be on the air and do all the things that we do in other markets. I think River Falls is one of our flagship markets that they've got local police and sheriff and highway patrol, and they've got community leaders in there every week. The mayor's on the air once every 2 weeks. Right now we're doing our debates live on air in studio for all the different positions, city council, county, school board, everything else. And that's what we do. We live by that. The original owner, the first generation, is from Valley City, KOVC, and there's a ton of North Dakota stations that are owned by Inksteads as well. So we're not new to this. This isn't something that we're Cumulus or iHeart or somebody that just simply takes and buys small town stations and then moves everybody into a bigger market. Minneapolis, the biggest market would be probably St. Cloud, Sioux Falls, or park, for Morris, but that's not our intent. Our intent is only to be able to increase our continued coverage in Morris without, right now we've got only one employee in the building because we lost 2 employees last month and just were fed up with it. They don't want to deal with all the issues that they're having in the building. And we had a really great one that we just hired who was, used to be the news director at WDOI Radio in Fargo. But again, he just couldn't do it and bailed after 4 weeks. So we just realized this is a real issue that we need to solve. So we're putting all of our cards on the table and just saying, here's where we're at. We're not trying to force anybody to do anything. We're just saying, here's where we're at. We just thought it was probably in the best interest of everybody involved just to say, this is where we're at. And if we can do one of 2 things, lift the limitations or sell the property, that would be great. The third scenario is one that we could do, it's just we don't want to do it if we don't have to.
Land acquisition gets to be pretty involved when you're asking the city to purchase land. That's not something that we as a council have,
Well, for us to move that tower, it costs a little over $1 million. So it's pretty involved for us too, as a small town radio company.
Yeah, land acquisition, I wish we had a whole bunch of money laying around that we didn't know what to do with, and then it would be a little easier to,
Sure.
to help you, but,
When was it made, or when did they make this, the planning commission do this for them, make it I can't come up with the right word, but make it the municipal conservatory? When was
Looks
that?
like 97 was.
97. So, we're almost 30 years out. So is that really our plan? Is that really,
Well, that's what
where we're at? So, I would suggest, and I
Going back
agree
to the
with
council-
Councilmember Miller that we should be taken to the planning commission and see if we can get it, or if they would agree, or look at it and see if we can get it rezoned so that you can get what you want out of that property. It seems to me to make the most sense. I mean, the first step. I wouldn't suggest that the city would just up and buy something without seeing if it could get rezoned in order to help. I mean, that's a 30-year-old plan that maybe needs to be readjusted. So I think it needs to go there, get on the docket, take a look at it, and that's why we have them. So I would agree with Councilmember Miller in moving forward with that.
what's the DNR's involvement with that? Because obviously municipal conservancy districts have wildlife and wetlands and all of that stuff in mind. And the district that we're talking about here extends all the way around along Palm de Terre River, correct? Back to where them new homes are on Riverside Edition over there? It just kind of wraps around, right, Jeff? So, I mean, it'd be helpful for us to kind of just,
I do think that's what the planning commission does.
they'll
Right.
do
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
get it,
That's
but
your job.
I get that part, but I
Right.
just thought for conversation purposes, it would be nice so we know what we're talking about here.
This is the parcel, I believe, in the green there.
Yep. Okay,
Right.
all right.
Yeah, it sounds like he has a buyer if they can use it for things they want to do. So if they can get the 2 parties together, there's no need for the city to have to try to figure out how to buy it. If there is a buyer,
Right.
and to have a use that's justifiable and something that fits into, that we can make work out there without upsetting
Yep.
the cart. So I think that's where we need to start.
Everybody's in agreement with that, I guess
Yeah.
you can take it from here and maybe set that up, or,
Well, Jake has the form to rezone. So once that gets filled out, or if he wants to talk about it before he does that, he can, the planning commission meets. Their next meeting will be that 3rd Tuesday. So the 20th. Or
Okay.
the 19th
of October, okay.
of November,
November, okay.
yeah.
What kind of time frame are you talking about here, Jake? I mean, what would you like to see?
We don't have any hard times right now. I mean, obviously the weather permitting, you know, anytime we do something, outside, there's gonna be only certain times of the year we can do it, but we don't have a set time frame right now. We thought we were on a good road to be able to move quickly, and then we ran into this land use provision that kind of threw everything out of whack. So at this point, this is where we decided to go to the next step. Let's give the city, basically everything that we're going through, and let you guys see if there's anything we can do to change it, or we'll go from there.
Yeah, I just, it would be helpful if we kind of just had a rough idea what you were thinking by the first of the year, by spring, something to that effect.
It takes time, so
Yes.
if he goes the rezoning route, like I said to him, it takes about at least 4 months,
Yeah, so we'd be looking at spring,
so.
for sure.
Well, we need to make the request and let them work on it, see what info we get presented with, so, I mean, it could be fast, it could take longer, I mean, it's to give them the info, but to start the process, we need to make the request by the property owner.
Sound reasonable, Jake?
Yep, sounds reasonable to me.
Okay, very good. Anything else for Jake?
Thank you.
All right, thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, Jake.
Yep, thank you, everybody.
Okay. All right, we shall move on. Anybody else that's here would like to approach the council? Now would be a good time. Seeing none. We have no public hearings. We shall move on to reading and approval of our meeting minutes from October 8th. That would be the regular meeting minutes.
I will move approval of the regular meeting minutes from the October 8th meeting.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the October 8th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then we have the condensed version from October 8th, 2024.
I make a motion to approve the condensed version of the October 8th minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We shall move on to the consent agenda, that which consists of the audit of city bills, the September 11th, 2024 Morris Public Library Board meeting minutes, the September 18th, 2024 City of Morris Tree Board meeting minutes. We have gambling reports, and we have an application for exempt permit for the Morris Fire Department Relief Association. And the last item on the consent agenda is an application to conduct excluded bingo by the Morris Area Women of Today. And I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will bring it back to the council for any discussion on any of the items. Sounds like we're looking through the tree board minutes. We're fall planting has kind of in the works. Ordered a bunch.
Most of the sites are picked, yes.
Okay. Well, we've certainly had decent weather for it. And I guess as long as we're talking about the trees, there is a tree stewards training this Saturday for those people that want to become a tree steward, and that's going to be this weekend.
Are you worried about the dryness to be
Well-
planting trees in the fall?
We'll end up having to water them a couple of, we'll end up watering every week. We haven't got the trees yet, so we haven't planted them. They haven't dug them yet. They're bare roots, so I'm thinking next week or the week after, and then we'll water them the day we put them in. We'll water them every week until it freezes.
And the trees for this come out of the tree board budget?
This batch will be coming from one of the grants.
Does that grant pay then for you guys to water them and the labor it takes to do all that?
That's the part they wouldn't do.
That's the part that we have to put forth.
And I went to the watering.
And there was about 65 trees you ordered.
Yes, for this batch, it'll be about 65 trees. The reason we switched it to fall planting is normally you don't have to do much watering. That didn't work this year.
Every year stands on its own. Any other discussion from any of the items on the consent agenda? Excluded bingo again, what? Educate me on that. What is it?
Excluded bingo?
Excluded bingo. Not sure what it is, but sounds like they're applying for it.
No, I'm not quite exactly sure exactly what excluded
Anybody else know
bingo
what
is.
excluded bingo is?
No.
Does it just mean they can do bingo?
Huh? Okay.
That would be, or does it mean they can do something other than bingo?
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Poker? I don't know.
Looks they
Okay.
have a date of bingo as November 8th, so I would say a day of bingo.
All right.
Okay, so, all right, you want to look at section 6.32, city code. Operation of bingo, raffle, paddle wheels, tip boards, and pull tabs would be, can be lawful gambling. But, organization, assuming they're exempt from licensing under statute to conduct lawful gambling, still needs a permit from the city, so.
Okay.
However, bingo conducted in a nursing home, senior citizen housing project, or by a senior citizen organization, or as provided or exempted by statute does not require a permit, so. It's either one of those things and it doesn't need a permit, or it's not one of those things that needs a permit.
Now we know. Okay. Any other items of discussion for the consent agenda? We have a first and a second. Hearing none, I'll just have a voice vote on that. All those in favor of approving the items on the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have no petitions, requests, or communications. We shall move on to ordinances and resolution. We have one before us. We have a resolution approving an agreement with Mike Seahawk for the public access channel system management. This is something we've been doing for what, 3-4 years now? With Mike?
I don't know exactly how many years, but with this one, nothing's changed. The amount is the same as it was last year.
Well, that's a switch.
Mm-hmm.
So the price actually stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen very often. I think Mike has been doing a very good job managing that system for us. Kudos to him.
My question on this is just the date. Whereas the city has received the proposal from Mike to extend the management agreement from a period of July 1 to June 30. So are we behind on this?
We are behind on this. Yep. I don't know where the miscommunication went, if it was on our end or his end, but the last agreement was done July or June 30th of this year.
Okay.
I'm gonna move on the resolution approving an agreement with Mike Seahawk for public access channel system management.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution agreement with Mike Seahawk. I think what we'll do on that, if there's no other discussion, I shall have roll call vote on that resolution, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Solby,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. All right, we shall move on to the city manager's newsletter. And I'll turn it over to Becca.
All right. We'll start first with a couple letters that I received from Jay. The first on the trees on 6th Street. So I did have Russ and Jeff here just in case there were any questions. Talking about wanting to ask the contractor to give back funds in order to fix, I think it was 4 trees that were taken down in the project that weren't part of the plan set, I believe. So I did bring it up to the tree board, talking about how we did not have, I don't know how long ago the tree board came up with a clause to put in each contract, in our street contract, that kind of just lays out if they end up hurting or damaging other trees, that they would pay to reimburse the city for the damage of the trees. That wasn't in the contract. Talking to Jeff today, we can maybe try and negotiate. We still have to negotiate some things, so maybe that's something in there that we can try, but it's not, I mean, it's not a hard, yes, we're gonna be able to get these dollars, because there's nothing that says they have to pay for them.
She kind of surprises me. I thought we've dealt with this before in previous contracts. I'm just surprised that was missed. But
Yeah, so Mayor Wallers, I apologize if it was an oversight on my part. I looked through the contract. It doesn't have that specific language that we were forwarded by City Ranger. We can for surely put it in future contracts. I know there was some vague discussions that Russ, myself, and Jay potentially had out on site, trying to talk to the contractor about it. But right now, we don't have a clear clause that requires them to be responsible for that.
okay.
Age or size of the trees that are damaged or destroyed?
I believe these were small ones. correct?
There was quite a few different things happened. A lot of trees get planted on the boulevard like 3 years prior to the project. And how or why it ever got missed, trees got planted where sewer lines came out or curb stops were. So they had to be moved or just taken away. Well, your contractor, if it's not in the contract to move them, they're just gonna dig them up and throw them. We did take some and moved them and put them back in. But there is a few that are missing, which is gonna be part of this fall replanting on some of those. Some bigger trees, same thing. They were too close to curb stops or sewer lines. Some of these old projects on these, you know, on these houses, the sewer might have came out of one side of the house and water on the other. And it's hard to tell on the plans. It usually picks what trees are you gonna remove when you bid it. And on this one, we ended up taking like 10 more big trees, just because of the location where the sewer or the water happened to be. Water lines you can usually find because of curb stops, but sewers, it's just a guess. So that's kind of what happened on that project.
You know, without it being in the contract, I don't see that we're gonna have a lot of
No,
leg to stand on.
legally, I don't think we have much of a leg to stand on. I'd have no problems going back and requesting, but again, we have nothing to stand on with that, right? So personally, that would be what I would say, but with the knowledge that we're likely gonna have to eat it.
Right.
And Russ just said we got plans to use some of these 65 trees to
Yes.
plant in and refill or redo these locations. So I guess I'd say let's just move forward at that and hopefully get the wording in our next contract to deal with it, but to go back and say coulda, shoulda, woulda.
We'll do that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's pretty difficult at this point.
And then, the other letter that Jay wrote is about, a tree that was removed at Chiswick Field. So it was one of those trees that was cut, by Jay trying to get the tree to live again. Last year, the Public Works Department took the tree out because it's a hazard as it's a half-dead tree. So at the tree board meeting, we discussed, instead of spading in a tree that we're just gonna, with our fall planting, put one in that spot, so. Any questions on that
Seems
one?
reasonable, I guess, to me. At least we're gonna replace the one that was taken out, right?
Yeah.
They were, I don't know where it was, they were trees that were donated. And they had one that was dying back for 2-3 years. And I'm not sure why they didn't just have it replaced, but they decided to cut like half of it, the top half off. I struggle with that when they do that, because then all I had was a main leader that starts to rot, and 5-6 years down the road, I got a tree that one looks terrible and two could be a hazard. So I had the crew pull it out. And they got, tree board got a little mad with me, and so did some of the volunteers and stuff, but part of my job is the safety too of people, and it's a tree that was gonna be a hazard in a few years, so we just got rid of it. And they wanted us to pay for a $600 or $700 tree to be spaded in, which I don't think we have any reason to do that. After it's put in, it kind of becomes our tree, and so we'll just replace it with one of our bare root trees this fall.
And I think as long as we communicate to the donors that, you know, what's going on, that'd be one recommendation I'd have, so they know that, you know, after all, it was a donated tree, so they know that, hey, this is what happened to your tree, and sorry, but we're gonna replace it. That kinda goes a long way if we could do something like that.
I think it goes a long way too, is what Russ said, is once the tree is there and it becomes ours and our responsibility, we will take care of it as we see fit. I don't think that we can't be taking everybody telling you to go one way or the other way all the time. We're gonna have to take Russ's way on it, and I think that's the right way to do it, Russ, so.
And you're not gonna have 100% on trees or anything else of that type. You're gonna have issues with something somewhere, and yeah, you go move forward doing what you think is best for the mostest, or the most economical and safety wise. So I think just move forward and plant a tree in there.
Right. Next is a letter of intent. So I worked really hard the past few weeks, especially last week, to get our letter of intent for both the Safe Routes to School and the Active Transportation grants in by last Friday. So we're looking at two different projects. Although with the Active Transportation request, I did put in all of the requests for the Safe Routes to School dollars too, just in case we get one and not the other. So I can send you the map of kind of where it is. I'm still not really good with streets, but the Safe Routes one goes down Green River, down along the path on this side of the river, cuts over, and then goes back up into the housing area. That one did also include dollars for doing some crosswalks on Green River Road, which is in the Safe Routes to School plan, and then doing, I don't know what they called it, if it was a comprehensive crosswalk, but more of a bigger, brighter crosswalk in front of the school. So not a whole lot of cost there. A lot more of that cost is going to be the signs, because you need how many signs? 6?
Yeah, you have to have a pre-crosswalk sign, and then you have to have a crosswalk sign plus an arrow pointing down both directions. So you have to have 6 signs for each crosswalk.
Yeah. So we'll see on that, and the other one covered that area plus the other side of Palm de Terre and went down and around, except along the county road, because the county will be doing a project in a year or 2. So we're just gonna wait on kind of how their project goes, and if our sidewalk or trail there ends up lowering or needing to be adjusted. So that is the only part that was not in either plan. So we will hear back November 1st on if we are asked to fill out a full application, which is then due in January. So hopefully we will be asked to fill out both, and it's just kind of fine tooth combing what we already have, so.
Our local funding, when will that funds need to be come up with next year? or
2027,
So
so.
we have some time, or
Mhm.
we can include and do some budgeting. It's not like
Yep,
we hear and it's gonna be
and
next
it'll be
year.
that
It'll be-
next, yep, yep. It
Okay.
looked like we had to have our project completely done and finished, so it can go for bids at the end of, next year or 26, one of the two. I'll double check that, but
Okay.
the funding isn't until 27. And then we have some exciting news. East Side Parks, we've been partnering with Superior's Next Gen Group to make some upgrades to East Side Park, looking at making it an accessible destination park. So the playground would encompass swings, 2 to 5-year-old area, 5 to 12-year-old area, a workout area, and then it would all be a poured-in-place material on the ground. Would include picket fencing along the whole play area, so only the exits, which would only be a few of them, would be an in and out source, so kids can't just run here and there and on the roads. So it's a multi-phased approach with the first steps being the playground, possible future things of the shelter, bathrooms and such. We are focusing on a community-funded and built playground. So it'd be done similar to what was done in Robbins Island in Wilmer. The group and us have met with a couple playground designers on an overall design and layout of the park, as well as the playground equipment itself. So the Next Gen Group will be spearheading the fundraising efforts. They will be hosting regular fundraising events and opportunities for the community. More information will be coming out when those events are created. We are working with the West Central Initiative to hold the funds from these fundraising events. So when the fundraising is complete and the playground is ordered, all those funds will be transferred from West Central Initiative over to the city to pay for the equipment. So we're very excited to be working with them, seeing our park transform into a regional and state destination area. So, yeah, very, very exciting. So,
Yes, it'll be a nice asset to have in the middle of our community. Just one suggestion, maybe to double check with the Wilmer Group, finding out an annual cost to maintain that we'll have to probably budget for down the road on what the costs are to maintain upkeeping such a, you know, a big project, just for us to budget or have
yeah.
going forward.
Yes, I know that Whitney had reached out to our insurances to kind of see too, starting with there, what kind of costs would look at increasing for our insurance rates. So, yeah, but good to see what else they're maintaining. Any other questions or?
Well, you know, the parking has always been an issue with that park, and I think you and I visited just briefly about the parking situation. Maybe you'd want to speak to that.
Yeah, so they are looking at the area where the playground equipment is now, where the pirate ship equipment is, inputting in a 40 stall, about-ish parking area. So there will be parking there, and then the playground would go along 7th Street. So that's the design that's currently being looked at. Yeah, very exciting.
Well, and of course, there are 4 generational trees there, and I hope we can maintain and keep those. Obviously, they're 100-year trees, and I think I'd probably cry if any of them had to come down, as
Yes.
probably would a lot of people in the community.
No, those 4 trees are staying, so not gonna be touched.
Good.
Yeah,
Sounds exciting.
yeah, it is very exciting.
It's nice to see people taking kind of the lead on something like this. So they should be applauded and
Yeah,
congratulated on their efforts.
yeah. Well, if no other questions, I'll move on. Our utility rate study, so at our work session next week, We will be having, Ellers here. They will be going over a utility rate study, kind of sharing what they found and kind of where our trends need to be for our rate increases over the next 10 years. With this, we have decided, I know we talked a little bit about it at the previous council meeting, but we have decided to move forward to look at our sewer utility, to see what that looks like, what we need to do, if anything, to make sure that that our costs will be equitable and our rates will be equitable for all users, including if we look at some industrial users that are higher users than everyone else. So that'll take about 3 to 4 months. So it'll be we'll still be talking about our sewer rates and everything at the next meeting, but this will just be a little bit more in depth, and we'll get something from them later on also. Planning Commission's working on the cannabis ordinance. So we're pretty close to all of the designations for what areas need to be zoned. In talking with Joe today, we may need to look at what we want to do if we really only want one. So when we first started this, we want to give our registration authority to the county. The county is looking at more than one registrations for the county. It sounds like if we want to go with one, that we're going to have to register.
That's my understanding, based on how I'm reading the state law, that you would need to essentially lay out a registration process in your ordinance, using the template that we have from OCM for how that works. Now, whether or not you and the county can, by agreement, have the county somehow handling those registrations, that might be a separate question, but the real question is, if you want one, I think the way forward is a registration ordinance, along with the zoning things that will need a public meeting of the planning commission for them to just follow that process, since we're amending the zoning ordinance.
So, what are your thoughts as we move forward with this ordinance? Do we want one and do registration, or do we want to give the authority over to the county and then see how the county goes with how many they're going to say are allowed to be registered?
Well, the way I understood it, we were required to have one, right? But ours doesn't count if there was to be, so it'd be 1 + 1 essentially, or am I wrong on that?
If the city had a municipal,
Yes,
then ours didn't count.
right. That's what I was
So
talking about.
at our meeting when we had with the council, they want 3. They said if we had 1, our 1 would go to their 3.
Okay,
But Joe is saying we'd have to then register our own.
okay.
So we'd be handling all the paperwork side of that.
Yes. So it's one of those, do you want to have the registration here and just have 1? Or do you want to have it with the county and let them decide how many we want countywide, knowing that most likely we'll probably end up in the city? Not saying it will, but could.
You could end up with all the designations in town.
Yes, you could end up with 3. If they just said they had 3, we could end up with 3.
Yeah.
So you just essentially have to choose if we want to register and do compliance checks and all of that, or if we want to designate that to the county.
Well, the county will be doing the compliance checks anyway, right?
And I'm sure at a cost to us, yes.
Well, we already have a contract with them, so more money. Nice. I don't know, kind of a tough call, but I guess I'm leaning toward just registering our own, but just have one. What do you think, fellas? Because they're gonna have to police it anyway, the county, and if we have to pay them to take care of the compliance checks and things, there are law enforcement entities, so to me, that's the cleanest for us. We just have one and let them do what they want. But it's up to you guys.
See, and to me, the cleanest is just to coexist with the county and let them,
Figure it out.
yeah,
So we could potentially have as
We
many
could.
as 6 though, if we,
whatever they set the number at, we could.
right? And do we want that? That's what the question is. Do we want it or do we need it? I mean, I can't imagine we need 6 stores, but I don't know.
There's a certain amount, even if it's under the city, or I'm sorry, under the county, there's a certain amount that still comes back of dollars that does come back to the
Yes.
city.
Correct.
So I would be on the same sense of allowing that to go to the county. I mean, if we have 1 and we have 6, what's the difference?
Well, we looked at, the concern I had, and I think we all had when we were in that meeting, is where are you gonna put them? You know, we looked at the map, and there's only so many spaces that we can actually put one, because it's pretty restrictive on where you can put them.
And
So,
that'll probably determine how many are in town.
right,
You know, if they say that there's 6
Just
for
by
the
that.
county
Yeah, exactly.
and our zoning is restrictive to a spot where you can only get 1 to 3 in, well, you're only gonna get 1 or 3 in. So the other ones will have to go, if there's more, they'll have to go to different locations, so. I think we got enough on our plate with everything else. I think it's nice to shuffle it over to the city, or to the county.
There's so much gray area from the OCM, yet they haven't got anything anywhere close to being cut and dried on the state level, handed down to the local areas. I mean, what I've gathered, what we learned at that meeting, that they're a long ways from knowing what they're actually doing. So yeah, I think we're trying to get the cart in front of the horse, but we're sort of being forced to do that by the state or with the county. But yeah, there's just so much gray area that we have no idea how it's gonna be or what's gonna happen. But yeah, I agree there too. We got enough problems dealing with, and for us to hire and to pay to police something, and we're gonna get our half of whatever, I mean, the break, and they explained to us what they thought it was gonna be on a percentage that we would get, but I think it's gonna be a lot of extra red tape for us to deal with, that I just assume not. Turn it over to the county.
Completely understand where you're coming from, right? Absolutely understand where you're coming from. The idea of hiring another individual, trying to figure that out as we're going through, that headache that's going through, that makes me lean towards shifting it towards the county.
yeah. I'm perfectly fine with whatever direction we decide to go. I just thought that, but I think, we're gonna be, the problem, not the problem necessarily, but I think the situation will work itself out just by the availability of the spaces where we can actually put them. So, I guess I'm fine with that. If we wanna just pass it along to them, I'm good with that too. We don't need a motion or anything to that effect, do we? Just, you'll
Okay.
pass that along? Okay.
Right. Nothing else on
Thanks
that
for
one.
coming in, Russ.
You bet.
Thank
guys
you.
need me for anything, or-
Nope,
Perfect.
thanks.
Yeah.
All right, is that everything?
That was it on that one, yep.
Okay. So that's
So if
your,
you wanna, yep, if you wanna go to the next one on there.
all right, so your newsletter is complete?
Yep.
Yeah, I gotcha, I got you
Yep.
there. I just wanted to make sure that
Yep.
we were done.
That
Any
was
other
it on
questions by the council from any of the items off the city manager's newsletter? If not, we will move on. We have next up is, we have a motion to approve job descriptions and Abdo grade and pay scale for non-union employees. And I'll let Becca just speak to that briefly here.
Yeah, so, at the last meeting, we had Michael from Abdo here to talk about the, rate study, looking over where we are in comparison to market rates. And kind of next steps are then to approve those job descriptions, which you all got, in your email. And then the scale for non-union employees. So, biggest changes in those job descriptions that you had, not a whole lot changed. We added some comments on required skills, experience, and education. So some of them just had, this is what we want, and as we were,
Me too.
hiring different people, some didn't have those skills, so we added some recommended skills, and then there was some required stuff, so some of those changed. We did add in transit drivers, cause the transit drivers didn't have a job description, so created one for them. And then the airport manager's job description had all the way from A to at least Z, if not longer, of different job duties. So we cut it all down, just, but still keeping those essentials that cover what that job entails. So those are some of the biggest changes with those job descriptions. And then the wage scale. So the wage scale, kind of like he was saying, we don't have right now anything for our non-union employees. It's just kind of this is where that job sits, and when we do the COLA, that's the COLA, and that's the new where that job sits. So this at least will put those positions in the step and grade table, put them on a grade where they are in steps, all pay equity compliant. So what you could find, and what he said with a no step and grade table where you have no minimum, no maximum, what you could find is you have somebody who's been here for 15, 20 years, who is a woman, who, you know, say their points are here, but they've been there 20 years, and some of those that we do have, because our union employees do have a min-max, we may be out of compliant sometime. You know, if someone has been there a long time, we could be out of compliance because they've been there 20 years and they're lower than someone with the same type of pointed system. So this just kind of helps us in our, even at our pay equity, to say this is the min and this is the max. So even if someone's been here 20 years, this is their grade, this is the highest in that grade, and we'll continue to be in compliant. So that's a good thing for having a step and grade table for non-union employees. Your last sheet that you have kind of shows all the non-union employees. You will see 3 liquor store clerks on there. The liquor store clerks are in the union unless they work under 12 hours per pay period. Then they're not considered that part-time status and fall under the non-union contract. So the first little area, the proposed, that dollar is to get them on the scale, kind of like how Michael was talking. That's the phase 1. That's to get them on the scale. And then you see over in that next column, there's just 2 of them that have been here for more than that 8-year mark, that we felt putting them at that 8-year highest step mark to put them up to, that's that phase 2 if we wanted to do the phase 2 implementation of that. So there would be only the 2 positions that would require that.
This would be effective,
January 1st.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we have roughly 40-some employees, and of that number, about 40 of them, or excuse me, about 14 of them are non-union. That's about right.
Mm-hmm.
we passed the preliminary budget. Do
So
we have
The
anything?
preliminary budget, I still have a COLA, and I did add their recommendations to that before presenting and putting in the preliminary budget, yeah.
Well, it certainly seems cleaner to me, you know, and I think going forward it's gonna, long-term, I think it's the right thing to do. And take a little bit of the guesswork out of it. Gonna give us a little more consistency in our, and we wanna be competitive. At the end of the day, that's kind of the goal, right? We just wanna make sure we're competitive in the marketplace and we can keep and retain good employees, and this would probably be, I think, a step in the right direction. Thoughts, council?
My thought is I would like to talk about this at like a work session where we could get a little more in depth. I mean, I see all these numbers and I see this, but just a little bit more of an understanding for me of how this works. I agree that we should be on a path and that we need to have something implemented. I just like to understand it a little bit better before I agree to it.
Do you wanna do that at the next?
I would like,
at
I would,
next
I,
week's
that's
meeting
what I
too?
would like to see, cause I would really like to understand a little bit more. I think this is the right path, I really do, but I just hate passing something that I just not really have 100% grasp of, just by, you know, reading these 3 pages right here, right now. I'd like to just ask a few questions of you. A short discussion, doesn't have to be a lot, just to make me feel a little more comfortable about it, so.
That's good.
I mean, I don't know what, if that's how anybody else feels, I mean.
I agree that it needs a little more discussion. I'd have no problem at all to understand it a bit better.
Well, you would, just so you're thinking about, just so we understand what you're thinking is, implement this the first of the year then?
Yes.
Or- So we do have a little bit of time, but, I mean,
Yes,
or not, or maybe we
Well-
don't.
we do. It would be nice to have your support and approval as we go into negotiations,
When is that?
the first,
November?
Mhm.
When's our work session?
the 29th. But you can't make any decisions.
No,
on the
obviously
work session.
not, but, I see that raises a question for me too, is you're
Right.
going into, but this is non-union.
This is non-union.
Right, so
Correct.
there isn't a negotiation here. But
Correct.
that would be some questions I would have is, if approved or this, what is that going to do to,
Implications for,
yeah, for the union negotiations and things like that some of these questions that arise that, you know, I guess I'd like to have answers to before I say yes to something.
Non-union normally gets whatever,
They get the COLA increase that everyone else gets in the union, yes.
and as far as the contract agreement, what happens with whatever the contract our union employees get, what do the non-union get compared to that? As far as
So
for
we
any
all
adjustment?
keep it consistent, so they're all,
So
they're all
if
the
the
same,
union gets an
pretty
increase, the
much.
non-union gets an increase,
yes.
okay?
Yep, if there is a COLA, increase, say like last year was 5%, the unions got 5% COLA, the non-unions got 5%. The only difference is the union employees already have a step and grade scale. Well, a step scale, they don't have a grade, but a step scale
Yeah,
in
but just,
there.
in the union negotiations, the non-union are going to receive what the union gets also.
Yes,
Only the COLA, so let's say that
COLA.
the 5% was segregated between 2.5% COLA and just a straight up 2.5% raise. The COLA is only 2.5%, is that what then the non-union would get? If I'm understanding that correctly? So are you
their-
categorizing the entire
Their
increase?
whole COLA is the raise. So the difference, so like, it's kinda like,
But a whole raise doesn't
They're-
have to be just cost of living, it's
So
what you're
right.
negotiating.
so they have kinda like this would have, they have that 3% in between each step. So if you're at, if you just start this year next year, on January first, they're gonna get their COLA of 5,
Okay.
and then at their year mark, get a,
Step increase.
yes.
Okay, so that bodes exactly why I would like to talk about
Yep.
this and have some of those questions
Yep.
answered.
The step increase is what I see looks reasonable, I mean, to me, but.
The one thing, do you have any questions about the job descriptions, or can we approve the job descriptions?
I
would be okay with that.
I read the job descriptions and, you must have tweaked and improved them, cause I think
Yeah,
if you look at our charter, the job descriptions in there are pretty vague.
yeah, we, like Michael said, we had all employees fill out a form that kinda laid out what they did,
Yep,
how often they did it, and made sure what was in the job description matched what they do.
so them job descriptions then, will they become part of our charter then? Cause we do have,
I don't think it's part of the charter.
cause we have job descriptions in our charter, correct?
I think
For
just
some
the
of the
city
positions?
manager position, and
City
it
clerk.
kinda lays out some of that stuff, but no,
I don't think your line employees would be in the charter, I mean,
No,
look.
because there's the potential to add
Cause you'll have.
forethought, right? Like you wouldn't be able to say like if a city like ours had, say a multimedia or whatever, like you wouldn't have the foresight to add that. You'd have to amend your charter. Not
Right.
saying that it wasn't done, but
I think we have a city clerk, the mayor's position is all lined in there, and city managers, but beyond that, I don't think we get into much. Okay. All right. No, I liked what I saw with the job descriptions in there. I just think. You looking for a motion to approve them?
Yep,
Okay, are we comfortable doing that, fellas? Just, or if you need more time looking at those two, we could just wait for that too. It's certainly fine.
personally, I don't have any problems with the job descriptions.
I don't either.
So I'll make a motion to approve the job descriptions as amended.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, we have a motion and a second to approve the job descriptions as stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Well, we got part of it done.
yes.
All right, good deal.
And so then we can add that, and that'll be on the 29th, and we can add that too, because the
Yeah, and
discussion
if
is.
you want certain
This
things,
next
like I'll
Tuesday?
bring his,
Yeah.
I'll bring his PowerPoint, but if you have
Sure,
certain
yeah.
questions or something. you
Right,
let me
and like
know.
I said, I like this sort of format, I do like that, I think they're just just a few questions that I'd
Mhm.
like to do and how it's gonna,
Yep,
a little bit how, I understand it, how it's moving forward and how it's going to affect other negotiations.
sounds good.
All right, we shall move on. If there's no other discussion there, board updates, I guess we can talk about, send it back to the council. If there's any board updates, now would be a good time for that. Would you like to share? Moonlight Madness, is that this Thursday? I think it is. I think I should know that. I had it wrote in here. I really don't have much to report on any of my various boards either. Moonlight Madness, October 24th, Thursday night. Okay. All right, hearing none. Is there any other business to come before the council? Hearing none, I shall adjourn the meeting.